You see him everywhere. The guy who stayed. The one who fought for the relationship when she checked out. The man who kept trying when it was clearly over. Who lowered his standards, compromised his boundaries, accepted less and less until he became a shadow of who he was. Everyone calls him loyal, dedicated, a good man who doesn't give up. But Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher who dismantled comfortable lies for a living, calls him something else entirely. A slave, not to the woman, not to the relationship, but to his own fear of walking away, to his terror of being alone, to his inability to choose himself over comfort. And that slavery, according to Nietzsche, is the fastest path to becoming exactly what you fear most: weak, resentful, bitter. A man who traded his power for the illusion of security and wonders why he feels dead inside. Because here's what Nietzsche understood that destroys most men. The ability to walk away isn't cruelty. It's the foundation of everything valuable in your life. Your self-respect exists only when you can leave situations that diminish you. Your power exists only when you're not desperate to hold on. Your happiness exists only when it doesn't depend on someone else choosing to stay. The man who cannot walk away has already lost everything worth having. He just hasn't realized it yet. He's sitting in the wreckage of his self-respect, calling it commitment. Standing in the ashes of his dignity, calling it love. Accepting scraps of affection, calling it loyalty. And Nietzsche watches this with the cold clarity of someone who sees the pattern playing out across millions of lives. These men think they're being strong by staying, but staying when you should leave is the weakest thing you can do. It's not strength. It's cowardice dressed up as virtue. It's fear pretending to be dedication. It's the inability to face discomfort masquerading as fighting for what matters. Walk through any workplace, any social circle, any city, and you'll see them. Men in relationships that ended emotionally years ago but continue physically, because neither person has the courage to end it. Men who accept disrespect, inconsistency, manipulation, betrayal, because the alternative feels worse. Men who've convinced themselves that tolerating mistreatment is somehow noble, that sacrificing their peace is what good men do, that destroying themselves to maintain a relationship is what commitment looks like. And they're miserable. Every single one of them. You can see it in their eyes, in how they talk about their partners with barely concealed resentment, in how they've stopped pursuing goals because what's the point, in how they've given up on the version of themselves they once wanted to become. Nietzsche identified this pattern as slave morality, the psychological framework where you convince yourself that your weakness is actually virtue, that your inability to leave is actually strength, that your fear of being alone is actually love. And once you adopt this framework, you're trapped. Because now you can't leave without feeling like you failed. You can't choose yourself without feeling selfish. You can't prioritize your well-being without feeling guilty. So you stay, and you decay. Slowly, watching yourself become less than you were. Less confident, less hopeful, less alive. Until one day you look in the mirror and don't recognize the person staring back. Here's the mechanism Nietzsche exposed, and it's psychologically devastating. When you can't walk away, you lose all negotiating power. Not just in relationships, in everything. Your job knows you won't leave, so they don't give you raises. Your partner knows you won't leave, so they stop trying. Your friends know you won't leave, so they take you for granted. Everyone in your life unconsciously understands that you're trapped by your own inability to choose yourself. And they treat you accordingly, not because they're bad people, but because humans instinctively respect boundaries and lose respect for people who have none. Think about the dynamics in relationships where one person clearly can't leave, where one person needs the relationship more than the other, where one person is willing to accept anything to avoid being alone. The person who can leave holds all the power. They set the terms, they decide the boundaries, they determine what's acceptable. The person who can't leave becomes progressively smaller. They accept less. They tolerate more. They compromise on things they swore they'd never compromise on, until they're living a life they don't recognize, with a person who doesn't respect them, wondering how they got here. Nietzsche saw this clearly. The man who can walk away is free. The man who cannot is enslaved. And slavery doesn't make you happy. It makes you resentful. Here's what happens psychologically when you stay in situations you should leave. First, you rationalize. You tell yourself it's not that bad. You focus on the good moments and minimize the bad ones. You convince yourself that all relationships have problems. You create stories about why staying is actually the right choice. But underneath the rationalization, you know you're accepting less than you deserve. You know you're compromising your self-respect. You know you're choosing comfort over growth, familiarity over fulfillment, fear over freedom. And that knowledge eats at you. Second, you start resenting not just your partner, yourself, because deep down you know you're choosing this. You know you could leave. You know you're staying because you're afraid. And that self-knowledge breeds contempt. You resent yourself for being weak. You resent your partner for benefiting from your weakness. You resent everyone who seems happier because they had the courage you lack. Third, you become bitter about relationships, about women, about life. Because when you trap yourself and pretend someone else trapped you, when you choose slavery and call it commitment, when you destroy yourself and blame circumstances, you become the exact type of person Nietzsche warned against. Someone who's given up on becoming who they could be, and now resents everyone who hasn't. Watch how this plays out in real life, and you'll see the pattern everywhere. The guy who stays with someone who cheated, not because he's worked through it and genuinely forgiven, but because he's terrified of starting over. He'll say he's fighting for the relationship, but really, he's just afraid to be alone. The man who tolerates constant disrespect because his partner knows he won't leave. He'll say he's being patient, but really he's just conflict avoidant and would rather slowly die inside than have a difficult conversation that might end things. The person who remains in a dead bedroom for years, accepting sexlessness, intimacy-lessness, connectionlessness. He'll say he's being understanding, but really he's just too scared to face the possibility of rejection from someone new. Nietzsche cuts through all these rationalizations with surgical precision. You're not staying because you're strong. You're staying because you're weak. You're not fighting for love. You're avoiding the discomfort of change. You're not being loyal. You're being afraid. And fear-based decisions never lead to happiness. They lead to exactly what you're experiencing: slow death, progressive diminishment, the gradual erosion of everything that made you valuable. Here's the truth that most men never face. The relationship you're afraid to leave is already over. It ended when respect disappeared. It ended when attraction died. It ended when she stopped trying. It ended when you started accepting behavior you'd never accept from anyone else. You're not in a relationship anymore. You're in a habit, a comfortable prison, a mutual agreement to avoid discomfort by staying in something that stopped serving either of you. And every day you stay, you're choosing comfort over growth, familiarity over possibility, fear over freedom. Think about what you're actually getting from staying. Is it genuine connection, or just the absence of loneliness? Is it real intimacy, or just familiarity? Is it mutual growth, or mutual stagnation? Is it actual love, or just dependency dressed up as commitment? Nietzsche would ask you to be brutally honest. Strip away the stories you tell yourself. Remove the rationalizations. Look at what actually is, not what you wish it was. And if what actually is looks like slow death, if it looks like progressive diminishment, if it looks like trading your potential for comfort, then you know what needs to happen. You need to walk away, not because you hate her, not because she's terrible, not because you're giving up, but because staying is killing who you could become. Here's where Nietzsche's philosophy becomes genuinely radical. Walking away isn't about the other person. It's about you. It's about refusing to participate in your own diminishment. It's about choosing growth over comfort. It's about valuing your potential more than your fear. The happiest men aren't the ones who found perfect relationships. They're the ones who had the courage to leave imperfect ones, who chose themselves when choosing themselves felt selfish, who walked away when walking away felt impossible, who endured the discomfort of change rather than the slow death of stagnation. Because here's what happens when you actually walk away from what's diminishing you. First, you rediscover yourself, all the parts you compromised away, all the interests you abandoned, all the goals you stopped pursuing, all the dreams you shelved. They come flooding back. You remember who you were before you started shrinking yourself to fit into a relationship that was too small for you. Second, you rebuild self-respect, because self-respect doesn't come from what you tolerate. It comes from what you refuse to tolerate. Every time you accept less than you deserve, you lose respect for yourself. Every time you choose yourself despite fear, you gain it back. Walking away when you should walk away is how you prove to yourself that you matter. Third, you become attractive again, not just to potential partners, to everyone. Because people are magnetically drawn to individuals who value themselves enough to leave situations that don't serve them, who have boundaries, who choose growth over comfort, who aren't desperate to hold on. The man who can walk away radiates power. The man who cannot radiates desperation, and desperation repels everything worth having. What city are you watching this from? Because regardless of where you are, you know men trapped in this pattern. Maybe you are that man, staying in something that ended long ago, accepting less because leaving feels harder, slowly dying while calling it commitment. And every day you stay is another day you're not building the life you actually want. Another day you're not becoming who you could become. Another day you're choosing fear over freedom. Nietzsche understood something profound about human nature. We don't regret the things we do nearly as much as we regret the things we don't do, the risks we don't take, the changes we don't make, the courage we don't summon. You won't regret leaving a relationship that was diminishing you. You'll regret the years you stayed after you knew it was over. You'll regret the version of yourself you never became because you were too afraid to change. You'll regret choosing comfortable misery over uncertain possibility. Here's what walking away actually looks like when you do it right. You don't leave in anger. You don't leave to punish. You don't leave to prove a point. You leave because staying costs more than leaving. You leave because you value your growth more than your comfort. You leave because you refuse to participate in your own diminishment. And you leave completely. No breadcrumbs. No keeping her as backup. No checking in to see if she misses you. You walk away fully, creating space for something better to emerge. Either in yourself, in her realization of what she lost, or in someone new who actually values what you bring. But here's the critical part. You don't leave to get her back. You leave to get yourself back. You leave to reclaim the self-respect you traded for security. You leave to rebuild the confidence you lost by accepting less. You leave to rediscover the version of yourself that doesn't need anyone to feel whole. This is where most men fail. They walk away, but they're still emotionally attached, still hoping she'll realize what she lost, still checking her social media, still telling mutual friends they're open to reconciliation. They've physically left, but psychologically they're still trapped. And that's not walking away. That's just changing locations while maintaining the same internal slavery. Nietzsche would see through this immediately. You haven't freed yourself. You've just externalized your prison. Real walking away means complete detachment. Emotional, mental, psychological. It means genuinely not caring what happens next with her. Not because you're trying to be cold, but because you're invested in your own growth more than her validation. It means building a life so compelling that whether she comes back or not becomes irrelevant. It means becoming so focused on your potential that her opinion of you stops mattering. This terrifies most men, because it requires actually letting go. Not just of her, but of the version of yourself that needed her approval to feel valuable, of the identity you built around being in that relationship, of the future you imagined that will never happen. And that loss feels like death, but it's not death, it's birth. The death of who you were becoming in that relationship, the birth of who you could become without it. Here's what Nietzsche observed about men who successfully walk away. They go through hell first. The initial weeks are brutal. You question everything. You wonder if you made a mistake. You remember only the good times and forget why you left. You feel the pull to reach out, to apologize, to try again. This is normal. This is your biology fighting against change. Your psychology resisting discomfort. Your emotions preferring familiar pain to unfamiliar freedom. But if you push through this phase without breaking, something shifts. You start sleeping better. You start having energy again. You start remembering what excited you before the relationship consumed everything. You start noticing opportunities you couldn't see before. You start becoming interested in growth again. And then one day, maybe weeks later, maybe months, you realize you haven't thought about her all day. That realization is freedom. That's when you know you've actually walked away. Not just physically, completely. Think about the men you know who seem genuinely happy. Not fake happy. Not Instagram happy. Actually fulfilled. They all have one thing in common. They're not desperate to hold on to anything. Not relationships. Not jobs. Not friendships. Not possessions. They engage fully but hold loosely. They invest completely but remain unattached to outcomes. They love deeply but don't need love to feel whole. This is what Nietzsche meant by amor fati, love of fate, the ability to embrace what is while remaining free, to walk away from what no longer serves. These men aren't happy because they found perfect circumstances. They're happy because they refuse to stay in imperfect ones. They're not fulfilled because everything in their life is ideal. They're fulfilled because they have the courage to change what isn't. They're not powerful because they control everything. They're powerful because they're willing to lose everything, rather than lose themselves. And that willingness creates a life most men only dream about. Here's the paradox that confuses most people. When you become genuinely willing to walk away, you rarely have to. When you're not desperate to hold on, people respect you more. When you're not afraid to lose the relationship improves. When you're completely fine being alone, you're never really alone. Because the energy of neediness repels. The energy of self-sufficiency attracts. Think about how you respond to desperation versus confidence. Someone who needs you feels draining. Someone who wants you but doesn't need you feels energizing. Someone who would fall apart without you feels like a burden. Someone who's complete without you but chooses you anyway feels like a gift. This is why the happiest men are the ones who can walk away. Not because they're constantly leaving, but because they're never staying out of fear. They're choosing their relationships every day. Not because they have to, because they want to. And the moment that changes, they have the courage to choose differently. Watch what happens in relationships where both people have this mindset, where both people are complete individually, where both people choose the relationship daily rather than staying by default, where both people know the other could leave but chooses to stay. Those relationships are rare, but they're also the only ones worth having, because they're built on mutual choice rather than mutual need, on genuine desire rather than desperate clinging, on respect rather than fear of being alone. Nietzsche saw that most relationships are built on the opposite. Two incomplete people trying to create wholeness. Two fearful people trying to create security. Two desperate people trying to create stability. And it never works. You can't create wholeness from incompleteness. You can't create security from fear. You can't create stability from desperation. You can only create dependency, mutual slavery. Two people trapped together resenting each other, staying because they're too afraid to face being alone. Here's what changes when you develop the ability to walk away. Your standards rise dramatically, because you're no longer willing to accept less just to avoid being single. You start seeing red flags you previously ignored. You start recognizing incompatibility you previously rationalized. You start valuing your peace more than partnership for its own sake. Your confidence increases exponentially, because confidence comes from knowing you'll be fine regardless of what happens, not hoping you'll be fine, knowing it. When you've walked away before and survived, when you've been alone and thrived, when you've chosen yourself and not regretted it, you develop unshakable confidence. Your relationships improve immediately, because you're no longer negotiating from weakness. You're no longer accepting scraps of affection. You're no longer tolerating disrespect to avoid conflict. You set boundaries and maintain them. You communicate expectations and enforce them. You create standards and refuse to lower them. And paradoxically, this makes you more attractive, more respected, more valued. Because people don't respect what they can mistreat without consequences. They don't value what they can take for granted. They don't appreciate what won't leave no matter how badly they behave. Think about your own life right now. Are you staying somewhere you should leave? A relationship that ended emotionally months or years ago? A job that's crushing your spirit? A friendship that's become toxic? A living situation that's holding you back? And are you staying because it's genuinely good, or because leaving feels too hard? Because if you're honest, most men know exactly what they should walk away from. They just lack the courage to do it. They're waiting for the perfect moment that will never come. They're hoping circumstances will change without their action. They're wishing the other person will end it so they don't have to. But Nietzsche cuts through this avoidance. The perfect moment is now. Circumstances won't change until you change them. Nobody's going to save you from choices only you can make. Here's the brutal truth about waiting. Every day you wait is a day you're not building the life you actually want. Every week you stay is a week you're not becoming who you could become. Every month you tolerate what diminishes you is a month you're trading your potential for comfort. And time is the one resource you cannot recover. You can rebuild money. You can repair relationships. You can regain health, but you cannot reclaim time. The years you spend in situations you should have left are gone forever. The version of yourself you could have become during those years is lost. The opportunities you missed while staying stuck are irretrievable. This is why Nietzsche was so adamant about walking away. Not because relationships don't matter, but because your one life matters more. Because your potential matters more. Because who you could become matters more than who you're comfortable being. The happiest men understand this viscerally. They know that staying in diminishing situations is the same as choosing diminishment. That tolerating stagnation is choosing against growth. That accepting less is refusing more. So they walk away. Not easily. Not without pain. Not without doubt or fear or second guessing. But they do it anyway. Because they value their growth more than their comfort. They prioritize their potential over their fear. They choose the uncertainty of possibility over the certainty of slow death. And here's what happens after they walk away. First, there's grief. Real, heavy, unavoidable grief. Even when leaving is the right choice, it still hurts. You're mourning the future that won't happen. The hope that didn't materialize. The version of the relationship you wanted, but never got. Let yourself grieve. Don't rush it. Don't pretend it doesn't hurt. Feel it fully. Then there's rebuilding. Rediscovering interests you abandoned. Reconnecting with friends you neglected. Pursuing goals you shelved. Becoming reacquainted with yourself outside the context of that relationship. This phase is uncomfortable but essential. You're learning to be complete alone. Finally, there's transformation. You become someone different, stronger, more certain, more grounded. Someone who knows they'll choose themselves when it matters. Someone who's proven they value their growth over their comfort. Someone who's walked away and survived, thrived even. And that transformation is worth everything you lost by leaving. Because you didn't just lose a relationship, you gained yourself back. You didn't just end something that wasn't working, you created space for something that will. You didn't just walk away from what was diminishing you, you walked toward who you're becoming. Nietzsche called this self-overcoming, the continuous process of becoming more than you currently are. And you cannot overcome yourself while staying in situations designed to keep you small. You cannot grow while accepting stagnation. You cannot become who you're capable of becoming while remaining who you've always been. Walking away is how you prove to yourself that growth matters more than comfort, that potential matters more than security, that becoming matters more than being. The happiest men aren't happy because they found easy lives. They're happy because they had the courage to make hard choices, to walk away when walking away felt impossible, to choose themselves when choosing themselves felt selfish, to prioritize growth when growth required loss. And that courage creates lives worth living, not perfect lives, but authentic ones, not easy lives, but meaningful ones, not comfortable lives, but powerful ones. Here's the final piece Nietzsche wants you to understand. You already know what you need to do. You've known for months, maybe years. You know what situation is diminishing you. You know what relationship ended long ago. You know what you're tolerating that you shouldn't. The knowledge is there. What's missing is courage. The courage to face discomfort, the courage to disappoint people, the courage to be alone temporarily, the courage to trust that you'll build something better. But here's the truth about courage. It doesn't eliminate fear. It means acting despite fear. It doesn't make hard things easy. It means doing hard things anyway. It doesn't guarantee outcomes. It means choosing growth regardless of outcomes. And you have that courage. You've had it all along. You just haven't used it yet. Because using it means everything changes, your relationship ends or transforms completely, your life restructures around new priorities, your identity shifts from who you've been to who you're becoming. And that's terrifying. But it's also the only path to genuine happiness, the kind Nietzsche described, the kind that comes from living authentically, from choosing yourself, from refusing to participate in your own diminishment, from walking away when walking away is what growth requires. The happiest men are the ones who walk away, not because they're running from difficulty, but because they're running toward possibility, not because they can't handle relationships, but because they refuse to stay in ones that require them to become less, not because they're selfish, but because they understand that becoming who they're capable of becoming serves everyone better than staying small to maintain comfort. Right now, write these exact words in the comments: I choose growth over comfort. I choose myself. Write it, because typing those words starts the process. It's a declaration, a commitment, a line in the sand between who you've been and who you're becoming. When you write that, you're joining a community of men who've made the same choice, who've walked away from what was diminishing them, who've chosen growth despite fear, who've discovered that happiness lives on the other side of courage. Now subscribe to this channel, because you're making a decision right now to prioritize your growth. You're committing to seeing reality clearly, rather than comfortably. You're choosing to become the kind of man who walks away when walking away is what integrity requires. Subscribing means you're serious about transformation. Hit that like button, because this message needs to reach men who are trapped right now in situations they should leave, who are tolerating diminishment while calling it commitment, who need permission to choose themselves. Your like pushes this video to someone who needs it today, someone contemplating staying versus leaving, someone who needs to hear that walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. We're going deeper in the next video. There's another layer to this that Nietzsche understood about why men stay trapped even after they know they should leave, why awareness isn't enough, why understanding the problem doesn't solve it, why you can see everything clearly and still remain paralyzed. That insight changes everything, because once you understand the real mechanism keeping you stuck, the one operating below conscious awareness, you gain the power to finally break free. And that freedom transforms everything about how you live, choose, and become. Watch for it.